Hello everybody, this is Stephen Elson. This is Full Time Devils. This is the Full Time Review Show. This is the chance for you to have your say on what's happened at the weekend. I'm absolutely dying from a cold. I'm not just like devastated at the win and about to cry. I'm dead with a cold and I've got a cough as well, so you're probably going to hear me sniffing and coughing all the way through this. But we're going to talk about it and we're going to push through. So there's some key things that I want to talk to you guys about, and you guys can hit me up in the comments. I'm going to read some of your comments out. We're going to go through Jose Mourinho's press conference. We'll be playing that in a second. We've got the best of the fan cams, and there's some banging one-liners in this week's. And then we've also got United on YouTube with a fresh face, who I think you guys are going to like, and I think we'll probably get him on a bit regular because it's really good. So first things first then, United lost 1-0 at St James's Park. We're not calling it by the name that they want us to call it by because it's trash. To Newcastle. They hit us on the counter, they defended deep, they defended well, they took their chance, which I think is what Manchester United did not do. We did have chances not just to equalise the game, but to win the game and put it beyond doubt. It could have been 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, and don't think anybody could have had a complaint. United dominated the game without really dominating the game, which I know sounds crazy. United held a lot of the possession in our back four, literally held possession in our back four. The four defenders were our four most passing players. They had the highest number of passes between the rest of the squad. That's not what you want. You want usually one or two of your midfielders to have the most passes. That shows you where you're holding your possession. We held our possession in our back four. And the reason we held our possession in our back four is because we didn't dominate the middle of the park. Do you know who did? John Joe Shelvey. On that form, he's probably a shooing for the World Cup, because I'd rather him than Henderson if you're asked about the World Cup. But because we didn't hold our position or hold position in the middle of the park, what Manchester United did was we went long, we didn't even go wide. We was putting balls into the final third that were of low quality. We didn't hold position high on up off the pitch to be able to put good quality through balls in, to get behind the defence, to turn the defenders over, because we was holding it back in our back line. And I think that's a fundamental flaw of this system with Jose Mourinho. It's no coincidence that we had a lacklustre performance against Spurs and then another lacklustre performance with basically the same team and system against Newcastle. Because I think this system and that in particular team isn't good enough. It's just plain and simple is not good enough, and I rest the responsibility of that squarely at the feet of Jose Mourinho. I'm not sure what he's trying to do with the starting 11, whether he's trying to fit in too many players that are in form into the starting 11, or if he's trying to come up with a system that he thinks might work in this sense or that sense. But United's best performances for me last season came with a three-man midfield 4-3-3. That was where we got the best out of Paul Pogba. That was where we got the best out of our side. And that was where we dominated a lot of the games. Now, the two games that stick in my mind for last season are the Spurs and Arsenal games at home last year. Now, Arsenal managed to grab a late equaliser in that, but we beat Spurs and we should have beaten Arsenal because it was two dominant midfield performances. And the midfield that we played was Carrick, Herrera and Paul Pogba. Now, when we signed Matic, Carrick didn't know about his heart problem at the time, but we knew Carrick was probably going to be in his last season as a first-choice player at Manchester United. You think, here's an opportunity to drop somebody in who is at the top of his game, like Matic, and use the midfield three that we saw so well last season. There was a lot of people calling for Ander Herrera to be the next Manchester United captain, and that was because of the performances that he was putting in. That wasn't people just saying it to say it. Last season, Herrera's performances was absolutely fantastic. Now, we have tried only a couple of times, and I don't think we've persisted with it enough. Certainly when you consider how long we've persisted with Smalling, and we're going to get onto Smalling in a second. I think we need to persist with the 4-3-3. Our best performances this season have arguably come on the back of 4-3-3, Stoke aside. And I think that's the formation that suits this team the best. Now, I understand that there's a lot of players that play in the same positions. Lingard, Mata, Rashford, Martial, Sanchez. Probably only two of them are going to be able to play at any given time. But that's why you have a bench. That we play 60 games a year. That's why you have rotation. United need to find a winning formula of a formation and stick to it. And once we've got that, we can bring players in for a game. You can rest Martial at the weekend and play Lingard. You can maybe Give Sanchez a bit of a run in the game and drop somebody else. But at the moment, the system's not there. The system is broken. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying, for the money that he's on, Paul Pogba should be able to play anywhere in midfield, which is the most Yadar comment ever. If you give me the wages that Sanchez and Pogba are on, does it going to magically transform me into the midfielder that they are? It's not going to do that, is it? The wages don't matter. You have to treat the player as the individual that they are. Players are tools, and if you use the tools correctly, you can do the correct job. If you don't use the tools correctly, you're not going to do the correct job. You try putting up a picture frame with a saw and see what happens. You have to use the tools correctly. And Jose Mourinho currently isn't using the tools at his disposal correctly. The best we ever saw from Paul Pogba at Manchester United was in a three-man midfield. The best he's ever played in his career at Juventus was in a three-man midfield. Is that a criticism of Pogba? No, this is just a statement of fact. Towards the end of his career at Manchester United, Paul Scholes could not play in the two-man midfield that he played in his 20s and the 90s. He couldn't do it. When he was played in a two, he got completely run over. There was too much space, and he couldn't get there. Paul Pogba thrives in a midfield three. Do you know what it reminds me of? And I hate to bring this guy up as an example. Liverpool tried for ages to fit Steven Gerrard into a midfield two. Famously tried to fit Gerrard and Lampard together in a midfield two, and it never worked. They probably would have worked together in a midfield three if they'd have paired them with somebody like Michael Carrick or Owen Hargreaves. But they never tried it. Is that because they're trash midfielders? Well, they was on good money. Surely they should have been able to adapt to anything that they're thrown at. It's not the case. Graham Souness, the press, and the rest of the people that are having a go at Paul Pogba for the fact that he is better equipped to play in a certain fashion need to look at that. Because the example of Lampard and Gerrard is the one that proves the point. You have to play to the strengths of the players that are in your team. You can't just tell them they're on a fortune and bend to whatever they're designed to fit to. It doesn't work like that. Chris Smalling didn't complete a single tackle in the game against Newcastle, as reported by Squawker, and that got a lot of reds in a bit of a tiff yesterday. I don't know what Rojo is doing in training. I don't know what Lindelof is doing in training to not be given an opportunity in the starting 11, because for the last few weeks, Chris Smalling has looked way off the pace. Keep getting your comments in. I'm going to come to the comments very soon, and I'll read some of the stuff that you guys are saying out. The last point that I want to make, so the three things that I want to talk about really, and I want you guys to talk to me in the comments about, is Paul Pogba, positioning, the fact he was subbed, Chris Smalling, is he good enough for Manchester United? Should he be starting regular games for us? And the final thing I want to talk about is, do we even care about the league? For weeks now, probably 6 or 7 weeks, the whole media has been telling everybody that the league is gone. Manchester City have won this league already, despite the fact that they technically haven't. So why is the biggest news of the weekend that Manchester United lost at Newcastle again? Still in second. Why is it not Arsenal losing the North London derby? Why isn't it any of the other things that happened this weekend? Why again is it Manchester United? Those are the things I want you to talk about in the comments. I'm going to read some of those out. Samin says, everybody moans Pogba can't play in a two. Maybe it's also Matic. He's still good enough, but clearly he's not got the legs like before. Matic has been carrying an injury for a while as well, and I do worry about how that's going to affect him. A lot of your points are calling the manager out. You could be right. Here's the thing. I think it's fine to criticise what Jose Mourinho is doing and fully support the guy for doing it. I criticised Fergie. I criticised Louis van Gaal, but I'm never going to stand here and say sack the guy. If you're going to stand there and say sack a manager, then you better have some realistic, good options behind that to say, look, we need to sack him because of X, Y, and Z. Now, for me, if you say let's sack Jose Mourinho, there's not one clear replacement. Not one. Not one at all. The guy has clearly transformed Manchester United from the team that he took over. We are doing better in multiple fronts. Moyes and Louis van Gaal never had us in second place. So the improvements are there. He's working with one hand tied behind his back because he's not got the resources that Manchester City have got. Yesterday we played a team. The back five consisted of Sir Alex Ferguson signings. You know, some of them that have been at the club almost a decade. when Manchester City have a problem, people talk about Pep Guardiola being this amazing coach. When Manchester City had a problem with their defence, he was allowed to spend $250 million signing new players to fix that problem. He didn't exactly coach his way through that. Yet Jose Mourinho's still playing with Sir Alex Ferguson's defence. And I think that's something that people aren't picking up on very well. Dubsy says Mourinho is just being stubborn as usual, and that's how he got the sack at Chelsea and Real Madrid. He's not learned. I think you might have a point on that, mate, to be honest. I think that's fair to say. He is being stubborn with the formation, for sure. Get Giggs in, more of the 92 guys at the training ground start over. I mean, that's a very romantic idea, Peter, but what evidence do we have that they're going to do any better at all? And if a new manager comes in, they're going to need more spending. At what point does that cycle ever end? You have to break that cycle. Adam says, yes, we are still better, but we can do a lot better. I completely agree, mate. We can do a lot better, but we are in a better place. That's why you won't see me say sack the manager. But I will criticise him for things that I think he's doing wrong. Lee says, you're on the papers talking about others and all you're going on about is City. Not really, mate. I've been talking about Manchester United's formation. The comparison to City is valid because they're the ones that are at the top of the league at the moment. We're only in second. Luis Enrique and the Napoli manager, they play 4-3-3. They will improve Pogba, Martial and Rashford. On what basis? Where's Bailly in his recovery? There was talk that he's going to be back for the Sevilla game. That's still a few days away, obviously. Matic needs a rest, said Max. Stop defending our team. We are shit. We're still second, mate. I mean, that's a gash comment. Sorry, mate. Nilsson says, nah, I just want him out. We didn't improve. Let's get real. How Young still get a game yesterday? I don't know if I just want him to go. How can you say we've not improved, mate? I really can't agree with you when you say that Manchester United have not improved. They clearly have improved. And like I said, if you want him out, that's fine. But you need to be able to offer up alternatives and say what's better. Can you honestly say if we'd have got Guardiola in over Mourinho, would we be first and they be second now? I don't think it'd be any different, in all honesty. I really don't. He should be starting 11 player week in and out. Well, we do. We do start 11 players week in and week out. Right, we're going to be coming to Jose Mourinho's press conference pretty soon. Then we've got the best of the fan cams, and then we've got United on YouTube. Second place, FA Cup, still in a good place in the Champions League, says Jason. There's a good comment. Chris says, it's gone off the screen, apologies. Should we look at De Vrij as a replacement for Smalling? I think Smalling's only playing because Bay's out, I think. But I don't know that for sure. Is that the reason the only reason he's been kept at the club? I really don't know. Jason says Poch is better. Well, Poch is behind us. He's been at the club longer. And he hasn't won anything with Tottenham. How can you say Poch is better? They started ahead of us in the league. They finished ahead of us in the league last season. We started from a lower down place and we've overtook them. How can you say Pochettino is better? That doesn't make sense. Right, let's go to Jose Mourinho with the press conference and see what Jose has to say after the defeat against Newcastle.
You know, I think first of all that Newcastle United players and obviously staff, they gave what they have and what they don't have, and I think that's a beautiful thing in football. I think they come here today to fight for a point, but they found themselves in a position of winning 1-0, and in that moment I think they went over all the limits of the effort, of the sacrifice, of everything a manager likes to see in his team. I saw that in my team after the 1-0. I saw that in my team, that desire to play and to try and to go until the last second, which we did. I can imagine that Benitez is more than pleased with the effort of his players. Were they lucky? Yes, they were. Yes, they were. But sometimes you attract that lucky with your state of mind. And after the 1-0, I think Newcastle players, they fought for their lives. and I think that's a beautiful thing in football. After some defeats, he told me a few times, don't be so sad if you look and if you think about the happiness of the other guys. So it has to be the way. I know that Newcastle players and fans and Benitez and everybody connected with the club is very, very happy with these 3 points. Is very, very happy with the feeling of the gods of football were with us. So at least I have that little smile. But obviously I am disappointed because I think we did more than enough to live without a defeat.
You're disappointed with the defending on the goal?
Sure, of course. You know, it's a lateral free kick. It's not even a lateral free kick from a dangerous position. It's really far from the goal. Clearly, the positions were the players. They know the positions they have to be, but we miss the challenge in India. I remember clearly without television, but just with my memory from the touchline. I remember clearly a Newcastle player jumping, and 2 of my players looking at him and staying on the floor. So the guy won the ball in the air, and then the second ball in the face of David. No complaints. No, I don't like to complain about referees on this kind of situation. A little bit like the first goal against Tottenham. I could complain that the goal is illegal, that Harry Kane was already 10 meters inside of our half, but I think it's more logical to complain about our mistake in the long ball. And today, I don't know if it is free kick, no free kick. What I know is that we missed a challenge in the air, and we missed the second ball. And I coach my players. I don't coach the referees. I have to be more disappointed with my players by losing that challenge.
Last question.
Graham Souness was very critical of Paul Pogba this morning. The newspaper said
You asked Graham Souness.
played like a
No. Paul Souness Paul Souness comments, and he's responsible for his comments, not me.
Okay, last question from Samuel. Sorry.
Try a different way. How do you think Paul Pogba played?
I don't analyze players individually. We train, we work, we organize. The players, they have their individual jobs in situations where we defend zonal. The players, they know the zonal responsibilities. But I'm pretty sure that you already watched that goal on television a few times. I didn't. I'm pretty sure that you did. So you know more than me. You know that who lost the challenge in the air. You know clearly that. So I think it's better if you don't put me in a position where I have to criticize a player, and by yourself you make your analysis.
Right then, that was what Jose had to say. You can find a full press conference on our YouTube channel, so make sure you go and check that one out. So the first thing that really stuck out to me was when he was saying that we went on until the end like it was a good thing. This is Manchester United chasing a win or a draw against a team that was in the relegation zone. That was a strange comment, I thought. Of course Manchester United went on. Did he expect us to down tools after going 1-0 down? Not sure what that was all about, that comment. That was a little bit strange. But not as strange as the question from the journalist that asked him about Bobby Robson. Now, obviously Bobby Robson was one of Jose Mourinho's mentors, loved at Newcastle, so I kind of understand the tedious link here between between Newcastle and Jose Mourinho and Bobby Robson. But to ask him what one of his great mentors who's passed away had to say, that's a joke of a question. Listen, I think my voice is going, so I'm going to have to jump us to the fan cams a little quicker than I thought I was going to do. Sorry, here's a fan cam.
It's an absolute catastrophe today, dropping 3 points today.
No bottle yet again.
All the gate, no idea. Once again, all the gate, no idea. Sick of it every time. Every time we come here, it goes in the paper. We don't need this. We don't need that. We need a full clear out.
The lad
A
showed-
full clear
the lad
out.
showed no bottle today. No bottle again.
Smalling's not good enough.
Second
Jones
away
is not
game.
good enough.
Yeah.
We need a centre half.
What went wrong today?
Everything. Everything.
And Pogba was disgraceful. Everything about his performance, too many fancy flicks, trying to Hollywood pass too many times, not doing simple things. And Mourinho was right to take him off.
4 Man United players came in and clapped the away fans. I don't think it's good enough from Man United players.
It's been said before, yeah, but I agree with you as well.
Absolutely shocking. We've had the chances again to do
Not
the
him
result.
again.
Don't go tonight unless you're otherwise. I say it's trouble on the way. I say it's trouble on the way. I say it's trouble on the way. I say tonight.
Right, so as you probably saw, someone took the mic and legged it. The mic survived this time. Sorry, bro. It feels like we won there without there going on. But people on away days still have fun, but ultimately the result wasn't the one we wanted today.
No, I just thought the overall fight and desire and passion wasn't there. It wasn't being applied.
Very disappointed, really. They didn't seem. They were second best most of the time. The chances we had, they should have took, but they didn't. And then they just seemed to lose out. I don't know. There's something sadly lacking.
What does Smalling do? Back kick the ball away. He does nothing.
He does nothing.
He does fucking nothing.
He can't
Can't
pass
defend.
the ball out of defence. Can he pass the ball out of defence? All he do is hit it in Rose said or whatever. He cannot fucking play
He's like
football.
fucking Sam in the motor. He's fucking useless.
And what a team to do against you lot. To be honest, we'll take it against any side, but for us, that is massive. Seeing the results across the weekend go against all the relegation sides, and for us to win that, it's huge.
I think it's just lack of composure in the final third, to be honest, because I thought we was all right defensively. I thought we was outclassed in midfield. John Joe Shelby had f***ing Pogba in his pocket. What's all that about?
I didn't die. I nearly did. So apologies for anyone who got their eardrums absolutely blown out by me coughing. I don't know how much voice I've got left in me, I'm afraid. Right, let's talk about... I wanted to finish off talking about what Mourinho had said, in all honesty. Absolute joke of a question from a journalist asking about his dead mentor. That's an absolute disgrace of a question. I'm surprised Mourinho didn't throw something at him. And he said he was disappointed by the players. I got to completely agree with that. The players did disappoint. The manager has to shoulder a lot of the blame for the way he sets the team up. But when the team are getting in goal-scoring opportunities, they've got to put those away. There's no excuse. So in the fan cams then, first comment was everything went wrong. Pogba was disgraceful, said Tom. I can't agree with Pogba being disgraceful, to be honest. Again, I think he was being used the wrong way. I think he'd picked up a little bit of a niggling injury. He wasn't himself. I wouldn't have said disgraceful. Only 4 players clapping the away fans. That is disgraceful. There's no excuse for that. And no surprises which players it was. It's the same ones every single time. We didn't take our chances. Smalling does nothing. Outclassed in midfield. And Shelby had Pogba in his pocket. I thought John Joe Shelby had an excellent game. I'm not sure he had Pogba personally in his pocket. I think that's someone just sort of putting 2 and 2 together there. It didn't really happen exactly like that. Let's see what you guys are saying in the comments here. Sanchez is a waste of a signing if he has to play Marshall on the right. I'm not sure why we're playing Marshall on the right. That's the confusing thing. I think Marshall on the left is fine. Sanchez comes in a lot anyway, being right-footed. We saw a couple of times in the Newcastle game, he was getting the ball behind the defence and putting a cross in. I do wonder if we can play him on the right. I actually think he would bring a lot of balance to Manchester United if we played him on the right. I think a lot of us want to see that 4-3-3 with Herrera, Matic, Pogba, and then Martial, Lukaku and Sanchez up front. Jason in the comments here with the most Yadar comment you're ever gonna hear. Pogba is a disgrace. Dabs dancing and haircuts does F all for us on the pitch. I suggest you go and watch some of Manchester United, mate, because that's nonsense. Defenders take too long to move the ball forward. They look nervous on the ball, says Reynard. I totally agree on that, and I think one of the reasons for that is because there's not enough options in midfield. When Manchester United get on the ball, all of our forwards, when we're playing a 4-2-3-1, that's the 4 people that are ahead of that midfield, they disappear into the furthest reaches. What you really want is that three-man midfield to operate as a triangle that moves around the centre of the pitch, and for the two wingers and that number 9 to stay in their positions and hold their position, and then you create movement in and around what's going on around them. I absolutely agree on that, and it doesn't help that we've got players like Smalling who can't exactly play out from the back. Pete Bassi says we have no identity anymore. I would agree on that. Herrera has no creativity, says Rick Parle. I would disagree on that. Why not Lindelof, says Sahil. I think there are issues with the defensive side of Lindelof's play, but maybe he would actually help us play out from the back a little bit better than we have been seeing. If we offered a second at the start of the season, we would snap it up. It's a big step up from last season. As long as we're improving, who cares what City and that do? Rome wasn't built in a day, says Jamie on Facebook. Yes, good shout, mate. No Smalling, Pogba in a three-man midfield, Sanchez on the right, not Marshall, and a freaking 4-3-3. That is the problem, says Anat. Bingo, mate. Say what you want about Van Gaal. In his time, we could pass the ball around the pitch much better. We just needed to be a little bit more direct. That was the problem with Van Gaal, is that it was possession for possession's sake. It wasn't that we was doing anything with it. I think that was the issue. Players were static. There wasn't a lot of movement. There was a lot of movement yesterday, and I thought Lukaku's movement particularly was fantastic. Creates a lot of space with his movement, and I don't think people really pick that up in what Lukaku does for us. But he's got to, for me, be in the box more. He's got to be able to get on the end of crosses, I guess, that aren't even coming really, I guess. But he's got to be in the box more, and he's got to be taking more shots. You know, most strikers are taking 7 and 8 shots a game. Lukaku's averaging like 1 or 2 at the moment. That's why he's not scoring. It's not that he's missing loads of chances. He's not taking any chances. So I think you need Lukaku in the box more, and you need him to be taking more shots, and you're going to see United start banging the goals in. Nick Hill says fallout between Jose and Pogba incoming. Why? Don't fall for that, mate. The press are definitely going to start hammering that, but I don't think there's any truth in that whatsoever. Right, should we go to United on YouTube? So we've got a new lad in here, Raf, and if you want to get in on United on YouTube, I'll tell you how to do that after this video, but it's a short and sweet one here from him, and I think it's pretty good. Check it out.
Absolute disgrace. Manchester United 0, Newcastle United 1. Mourinho loses again at St. James's Park, and that was a horrible game to watch. Raf here from the United States, waking up at 9:15 for that crap. Get rid of the 4-2-3-1, play 4-3-3, put Martial on the left, because if he's on the left, he probably scores that chance. Put Sanchez on the right. Lukaku played great today, so I don't want to hear anyone criticizing him. And yeah, defending on the set piece was horrible. Get Smalling out. Put someone next to Jones. Get Young out because he can't defend for his life. And yeah, just really disappointing.
Yeah, he absolutely nailed it. Raf absolutely nailed it. If you want to get involved in United on YouTube, and I do want to see more of you sending in videos like that one, because that was absolutely top, everything that he said. I'm going to go over what he said in a sec. But if you want to get involved, hit the link in the description. Email us at fulltimedevils@gmail.com. Send us your video. We're going to be doing this every single Monday for the whole of February, and then fixtures are going to dictate when this video is. But for the whole of February, this video is going to be here. We want to hear your views. So send us a 30-second video, whether you've got a United YouTube channel or not. We want to see your views. Send us a clip like that, like Raf did, where he goes, Sanchez on the right, Marshall on the left, leave Lukaku alone, he played well, and play 4-3-3. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Delivered it brilliantly. Raf, man of the match for today. How about that? Right, you guys, thank you for joining us. We've got all the usual coverage coming out this week, so make sure to keep it locked to Full Time Devils. Subscribe if you haven't, and if you are subscribed and you're thinking, hang on, they're not sending me an email every single time you upload a video anymore, that's because YouTube's starting to play silly beggars, isn't it? So what you need to do is you need to hit the bell on YouTube, and you need to make sure that you are choosing all notifications, because they're already sending you one every now and then at the moment, and that's not good enough, is it? So do that, and I will see you in the next one. Laters.